Liebe Leute, willkommen zurück zu Suzerain. Wir stecken immer noch in der Wirtschaftskrise und der Staatsverschuldung, nachdem die Oligarchen ihr Kapital nach Acacia gezogen haben, also in die USA. Und wir haben gerade unsere Wiederwahlkampagne begonnen. In Amerika haben wir zu unserer konservativen Wählerschaft gesprochen. Und die war scheinbar ganz begeistert von dem, was wir da so an Phrasen gedroschen haben. Schauen wir mal, was die Zeitung berichtet. The Red Youth attack religious group. Aha. Earlier this week, the communist left ravaged a peaceful religious group. The same communist group that always spout about fighting for the people. Then perhaps God has no place in their world. It seems that the organization has finally revealed itself to be a satanic cult fighting against God himself. Oh God. If not, then they are trying to sabotage our democratic values as they suppress our rights to worship. Either way, the administration needs to put their feet down and end this anti-democratic satanic terrorism. Okay. The Red Youth drives CSP and WPB recruitment. In Gelsort, a sizable gathering of Red Youth members were seen organizing a recruiting rally for the CSP and the WPB. Also, gehen wir mal direkt rein. Das ist die... What? Ach so, ich dachte gerade, ja. Das ergibt natürlich Sinn. Also... Sie haben protestiert zugunsten des Konterner Sicherheitsbündnisses, also sozusagen der Warschauer Pakt, und der Bluischen Arbeiterpartei. Ja, liegt ja bei beiden die Verbindung nahe. Das ist jetzt keine Überraschung. Und auch einigermaßen in unserem Interesse. Despite the USP majority of the city, they seem to have laid the groundwork as a surprising amount of people were interested in attending. We interviewed a few passing citizens on what they think and we heard conflicting answers. A baker attending the rally said, "The revolution is coming, whether you like it or not." While a local market owner has said, they know it's pointless, but they are still doing it. That's crazy if you ask me. Despite what the general populace thinks, the mood was merry as they are still holding on to their hopes. Jo, bis später. Gut, dann gucken wir mal, was die Berichte sagen. Benfi. Die jungen Sorden greifen an, die gibt es also immer noch. Habe ich es nicht gesagt? Die alten Faschisten stecken immer noch im Untergrund. Die haben so lange stillgehalten und jetzt zu den Wahlen hin, die überhaupt mit der Krisensituation, kommen sie wieder aus ihren Löchern gekrochen. Banned Young Swords members have begun assassinating government officials in Benfi, leading to massive panic and chaos. Police units are actively fighting the Young Swords elements who are hiding among the rioters, leading to unnecessary deaths during gunfights. It is also reported that the sister of the Benfi mayor has been kidnapped and is being held at gunpoint. Was? Revolters take over cultural center, declare HQ. An estimated 6,000 revolters have taken over the massive Benfi cultural center complex and declared it the headquarter of the revolution. Dozens of civilians were injured in the chaotic event where the police tried to rescue hostages near the center. A massive riot police formation is surrounding the center as of now, but they are overwhelmed in numbers. Meanwhile, a large group of nearly 10,000 rioters have begun taking over the port and engagements between the police and the civilians are ongoing. 16.000 protestieren in Benfi. Disguised rebels ambush police officers. Schon wieder. More citizens began fighting against the police in the streets. The city collapsed into chaos. Police retreated back to their headquarters. Rioters destroy Ribéry Historical Site. Rioters have looted the gold and jewelry found in the ancient caves underneath Ribéry while engaging with police forces. Some suspects were caught, but the police units suffered heavy casualties when the rioters used a bulldozer to run over a police formation. What? 14 police officers were heavily injured and hospitalized. The rioters descended upon the shops in the downtown area and destroyed most civilian property in the city. Ja, ich glaube, das mit der angesprochenen Anarchie kommt jetzt wirklich. Der Staat bricht zusammen. Armored column rolls through the rioters. Oh Gott, was ist denn hier los? The 3rd Armored Division's military outpost was surrounded by nearly 10,000 rioters for 2 days. Wo kommen die denn alle her auf einmal? The local commander reported a potential to be overwhelmed as a unit. The situation escalated when the colonel of the division ordered battle formation and attacked the rioters with tanks and APCs, which resulted in 310 killed and 1,321 wounded. Many tanks of the column rolled through the protesters. When first aid and medical teams arrived to save lives, the colonel forbade them to treat the rioters as they were branded enemies of the state. The division has since suppressed or killed all dissenting voices in Astor and taken over the city. Was? Gazom facilities occupied. Hundreds of rioters descended upon the natural gas facilities of Gazom in a bid to take over the private property. Police tried to stop the 3,000-strong group and managed to crowd control some of them, while others have entered the private facilities and taken over some of the buildings. More police units have arrived and began sieging the occupiers of the offices. After a week of a standoff in which the occupiers swelled in numbers, a massive clash resulted in the destruction of the facility and the death of 18 people, including 4 police officers. Das ist ja auch spannend mit dem Militär jetzt, ne? Also ich meine, die sind eigentlich auf Seiten der konservativen Protestierenden. Aber haben die jetzt angegriffen und Esdort besetzt? Was zum Teufel? Protesters occupy the Blue Mansion and City Hall in Lakehaven. Many civil servants and state staff were beaten and the property was heavily damaged. The massive protests also took over City Hall and vandalized government property. Riot police tried to disperse the crowds, which resulted in a massive clash with hundreds of wounded people. Fires burned and smoke billowed into the night. Firefighters were working hard to prevent a mass fire. The city was in utter chaos after the event and the mass protests seemed to be overgrowing. More reinforcements of riot police have been called to the city to help. Ark Sanctuary roof arson by vandals. Hundreds of vandals attacked the Ark Sanctuary and set fire to the roof. The firefighters department and local police immediately intervened to prevent further damage to the building while fending off the vandals that injured the firefighters. The police units found themselves surrounded and barricaded themselves in the Ark Sanctuary with the Archpriest. A reinforcement police contingency broke through the mass revolt and saved the surrounded security units. Several armed rioters shot at police officers while armed vehicles gunned down violent armed rioters. The situation in the city is escalating. Uff, das sind ja Zustände schlimmer noch als beim Amtsantritt bei diesen Unruhen. Mein lieber Scholli. Und wir beschäftigen uns mit der ökonomischen Situation. Lass die mal ein bisschen protestieren, ein bisschen Bürgerkrieg, das ist alles nicht so schlimm. Wir müssen erstmal über die Wirtschaft reden. I arrived at the Ministry of Economy and proceeded upstairs. An assistant waiting by the door to the meeting room took my jacket. I opened the door and entered the largest boardroom in the building. Simon was sitting alone with a glass of water and his documents laid out before him. He stood up when I entered and approached me. After a quick handshake, I took a seat. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Good afternoon. A knock was heard on the door and Gloria entered the room. Apologies, I got held up. Did you start yet? Mrs. Vice President, no, not yet. Now that everyone is here, let's begin. As you all know, we are here to review the economic progress you've made over the past term and decide how to proceed. I will brief you quickly on what we have done so far, just as a refresher. Well, let's hear. He gathered the documents in the pile in front of him and adjusted his glasses. From the pile, he produced 2 booklets and handed them to us. Please turn to page 5. Let's start off with our economy plan. I would like to say we are on track, but unfortunately I cannot. Our decisions so far have not been in line with our initial intention for a market economy. Das stimmt doch überhaupt nicht. Nur diese Verstaatlichung war dagegen. Alles andere nicht. We have been largely inconsistent and our economy has taken a hit because of it. That's the price we pay for doing the right thing. You could have tried harder to stick to the plan. Ja, aber das wollte ich von Anfang an ja nicht. Ich wollte diesen Mittelweg. Just pointing out the facts here. Let's move on with the report. Please turn to page 16. The status of trade and the effects of foreign policy. I'm happy to say that our trade has increased since the beginning of our term. We are on the right path. More trade means a more vibrant economy, which means unbridled economy development. Please turn to page 17. In our attempt to repair Sordland's economic system, we have mostly gone against the wishes of big businesses in favor of the request of Sordish citizens. This caused us to take on some losses in order to make the people happy. Thankfully, living standards are steadily increasing. We've been receiving fewer and fewer complaints about our welfare system. Good, keeping citizens happy is integral to keeping Sordland stable. Hast du mal gesehen, was draußen los ist? Exactly. Some of our industries have also been knocked down to the knees by our recent taxations. The demand for these goods has decreased drastically, which led to businesses in these industries being shut down. Oh, können die keine Zigaretten mehr verkaufen. Some people are calling the government out for infringing on their personal liberty. Apparently, some even filed lawsuits saying the taxes violate the human dignity. Weil ihr euch nicht mehr besaufen könnt? Their lawyers argued for them that they needed for mental health treatment. Wow. Now to page 34. Our production rate has gone down since the beginning of the term. We are at a low point right now. Then we need to fix it as soon as possible. As you wish, I note that down. Moving on to logistics. We have an infrastructure problem, and the economy won't truly flourish unless we solve it. We need to make new roads and improve the existing ones. People and businesses alike have been complaining. Ja, wir haben doch schon angefangen da oben. Smoother commutes, easier access and faster delivery time would help everyone out. Ich wäre eigentlich dafür, auch wenn wir uns ursprünglich für die Autobahn da entschieden haben, eigentlich das Schienennetz mal in Angriff zu nehmen. We are very close to the end. I want to talk about a few numbers. Please turn to page 57. I've prepared a chart. Our inflation rate is currently at a staggering 25%, up from 7%. It might be the highest in Sordland's history. The Sordish Ren has been wildly fluctuating as a result, and consumer prices have gone up. Which means that Sordish citizens are angry at the government. Ja, haben wir wohl gemerkt, ne? Wenn wir mehrere tausend Tote und ich weiß nicht wie viele 100 Verwundete haben. We have failed them ist ja überhaupt nicht wahr. There's nothing more important than the well-being of our citizens. Ja und nein. Ja, das ist nicht wahr, aber natürlich müssen wir, also das bezieht sich ja jetzt nur auf die Inflation, von daher, die müssen wir natürlich in Ordnung bringen. Agreed. Mr. President, do you have any questions? Wie sieht's mit der Verschuldung aus? Our current debt is at 611 billion Sordish Ren, up from 427 at the beginning of our term. Ja, dann ist das ja aber verhältnismäßig wenig, was? 200 Billionen, was ist denn das schon? This debt is due to government borrowing and the interest on our previous debts. As a result, our government's budget has decreased substantially. Due to our reckless spending in the first term, also bitte, I'm sorry to say that we have entered a debt crisis. According to my calculation, we won't be able to pay up our government debt without the assistance of a third party. It has even disrupted fundings to our welfare plans. Some construction projects and programs needed to be put on hold. Oh. Wie sieht's mit der Arbeitslosigkeit aus? The unemployment rate remains steady at 16%. The change is mostly due to our lack of investments and economic planning. Wie sieht das Bruttoinlandsprodukt aus? Our current GDP is at 141 billion Sordish Ren. A major decrease from 310 billion. Ja gut, weil die Oligarchen raus sind. As per the latest stats, the economy shrank 18% in the last 4 years on average. In short, we are suffering from decreased economical capacity. That's all questions. Very well. Before we move on, it is important to note that this is not entirely our fault. As you know, the oligarchs have completely withdrawn a considerable amount of financial resources out of Sordland. More importantly, they have struck a critical hit to our economy by doing so and have increased our need for government borrowing. Maybe we should have listened to some of their requests. Regardless, it is unwise to dwell on past actions. Let's move on to the next topic. I want to quickly highlight our budget expenditure. My numbers indicate that overall we have been generously spending our government budget. Naja. Money that is not spent is just pieces of paper, so that's good for us. Now, going into the elections and hopefully a second term, we need to decide on the way forward. One thing is clear, we need a bigger budget. We shouldn't start our next term with a budget deficit. What should we do, Mr. President? Any ideas? Wir könnten einen internationalen Kredit vom MFI annehmen. Was ist denn das? Weiß man nicht. MFI, was ist denn MFI? Money, irgendwas vielleicht? Was ist MFI? Das wäre jetzt schon irgendwie wichtig zu wissen, von wem man sich den Kredit holen will. International. Das sind keine Parteien. Das Internationale sind es irgendwie hier nicht. Ist es Mercopen Financial Institute vielleicht? Gibt es das? Ich meine, wir sind ja auch Teil der merkopischen Organisation für Wirtschaftsentwicklung, oder nicht? Da könnten wir doch, das gehört denen wahrscheinlich dann an. Nothing comes to my mind. We'll have to make do. Ja, ohne jetzt hundertprozentig zu wissen, was das ist, würde ich das vielleicht mal in Anspruch nehmen. Tja, steht hier nicht. Wir werden es annehmen. Ich hoffe, das ist jetzt nicht irgendwie was blockgebunden ist. This will pose quite a risk to the reputation of our administration, but it can be done. I get right on it after this meeting. Now, That's out of the way. During our first term, we have faced many challenges in the midst of a recession. We have worked hard to fight against the odds, but it was not enough. Violent unrests are still happening across the country. Ja, wieder, muss man sagen, wieder. Weil die Faschisten wieder aus ihren Löchern gekrochen kommen. The tensions chased away potential investments that would have created more jobs and boosted our economy. Simon paused to wipe his glasses. He swallowed before continuing. Mr. President, you may have surmised from the numbers I have given you that the economy has worsened considerably over the course of our administration. I want to prepare you for the truth. This is no longer a mere recession. We've entered a period that historians might reasonably refer to as a sordid Great Depression. We have broken our promises and failed our people. Es ist ja nicht wahr. My only hope is that future generations will be able to forgive us when they look back. Ja, da habe ich ja eine leicht andere Perspektive auf die Dinge. Jetzt können wir ihn dafür beschuldigen und aus dem Amt drängen. Wir haben alles getan, was wir konnten. Jetzt müssen wir uns auf die Zukunft konzentrieren. Das ist meine Schuld. Ne, wir haben alles getan, was wir konnten. With a team like this we will, I'm sure of it, sagt sogar Gloria, okay? Nothing against my predecessor Mr. Vecton, but he doesn't exactly strike me as an economic mastermind. Aber du schon? Achso, warte mal, hat sie Wirtschaft studiert? War das nicht irgendwas? Bam. Nee, das war die Bildungsministerin, oder? Nee, Quatsch, die Vorsitzende der Zentralbank. Oder der Nationalbank. Things should run a lot more smoothly going forward. We will get through this together. This is all for our meeting today. Thank you for coming. The meeting dispersed. I hurried to the cafeteria to get a cup of coffee. Ja, Cup of Coffee ist eine feine Sache. So, internationale Kredite. Die Entscheidung haben wir getroffen, aber ich glaube, da gibt es gleich nochmal ein Gespräch dazu. Schauen wir uns die Berichte nochmal an. Was? Tons of salmon left rotting in storage. The mayor of Langkirk requests financial aid for the city to slow down the economic crash, which was triggered by a massive decrease in fish exports. The city is reported to have a problem in finding new customers. Tons of salmon are left to rot on a daily basis, which caused many fishermen to move away. Aber wir haben das scheinbar angenommen, den Kredit. Wir sind jetzt von 11 auf 9 Verschuldung runter. Erhöhte Kriminalität und Rassengewalt. Okay, rassistisch motivierte Gewalt. In Sana. Request financial aid and additional security. We reported a spike in racial violence and crime in the city. The lack of investment seems to intensify the economic differences. Ist ja Unsinn, wir haben doch Millionen nach Sana gepumpt in das Landwirtschaftsprojekt dort. Marble soon to be a ghost town. The mayor of Marble requests financial aid. Jetzt wollen sie alle Geld haben, wo wir mitten in der Krise stecken. To combat the increased immigration, he reported that the city will be a ghost town in a few years if no measures are taken. A lack of goods and materials flowing from Morna and Holsort is the main contributing factor. Oh was? The National Front Party has welcomed General Lutheran's son into their midst today in Holsort. Seeing a Lutheran back in politics is shocking to many citizens. General Lutheran infamously organized the military coup against former President Vichy that led to the Sordish Civil War. Mr. Kibbener has organized the event to appeal to his voter base. This is a symbolic step for the National Front Party, as Lutheran was arguably the most well-known nationalist. Ja, Faschist war der. Aber ganz klar, deswegen haben wir ja auch die sordische Jugend verboten. weil sie im Bürgerkrieg als seine faschistische Terrororganisation, ein Terrorkommando fungiert hat. Und der Tastenauer ist wieder zurück. Ja, was kann ich dir berichten, was in der Zwischenzeit passiert ist? Massive Unruhen im Land, hunderte Tote, Tausende protestieren. Wir haben gerade ein Wirtschaftsbriefing gehabt mit der Vizepräsidentin und dem Wirtschaftsminister und uns dazu entschieden, ein internationales Staatsbudget, Kredit, besser gesagt, einen Kredit aufzunehmen. Hat uns 2 Punkte aus der Verschuldung rausgebracht. Mal gucken, wie es weitergeht. Jetzt fordern alle möglichen Bürgermeister ringsherum, überall im Land, finanzielle Unterstützung. Das wird, weiß ich nicht, wahrscheinlich nächste Runde oder so unser Budget wieder nach unten drücken. Mal gucken. Und ja, jetzt haben wir gerade gehört, dass der Sohn dieses faschistischen Diktators zurück ist. Oder was heißt zurück ist, dass er jetzt für die rechtsradikale Partei im Parlament wirbt und wohl deren Mitglied geworden ist. Dass die sordische Jugend, diese damalige Terrororganisation, die wir zu Beginn der Legislatur verboten hatten, die dann auch eine ganze Zeit lang Ruhe gegeben hatte nach den eingänglichen Auseinandersetzungen, jetzt wieder zu den Waffen greift und in Benfi tatsächlich ein Kulturzentrum besetzt hat. Ja, hoffentlich bringen die Kredite Entlastung, das hoffe ich auch. So, PFJP, Richte's Slogan, Victory for Everyone. As the 57 elections start to approach, friends Richter and the People's Freedom and Justice Party are making waves in Lackhaven. Their campaign slogan, Victory for Everyone, covered the city after a campaign visit. The party has been the major opposition. Ja, das wissen wir. Das ist bekannt. Und wir haben das Fernsehinterview mit einem Reporter aus Arcasia, wenn mich nicht alles täuscht. Das schauen wir uns in der nächsten Folge an, liebe Leute. Bis dahin, alles Gute. Euer Jan.